Still, I didn't say anything to my parents that time either. I was afraid they would send me to a doctor, and then the whole thing could end with something bad written in my personal medical card, which everyone at school would definitely find out about. I didn't want to take any pills either. Also, my mom would cry. I spent the rest of the night sitting on my bed and listening to music. I was terribly afraid of falling asleep. Naturally, in the morning, I felt terrible. I kept yawning and could barely keep from falling asleep face down in the porridge. Even the bathroom mirror seemed to have taken offense at my look. But typically, it was on that terrible morning that I had to go to school. Those days were as gray as the shadows under my eyes. I even drank 2 cups of coffee in secret from my mom. I hoped it would somehow help me. Observation 1. Coffee doesn't actually help, especially when you have 5 boring classes and extra tutoring in art history, with an ancient teacher with a very monotonous voice ahead of you. At some point, I couldn't help falling asleep, but I didn't sleep for long. I woke up to the side-splitting laughter of my classmates and the sounds of their smartphone cameras filming. I was squatting on the teacher's desk. I even seemed to be pecking something. It seemed I had been dreaming. I was a chicken. Such horrible humiliation. No one at school would ever forget about something like that. I had no doubt that it was just a couple of hours. The whole school, including the principal, would know about the stunt I pulled. 10 people had filmed everything on video while laughing like crazy. The last thing I remembered as I ran out of the classroom in tears was that the teacher kept teaching the lesson as if nothing had happened. A classmate of mine caught up to me as I was about to run out of school and handed me my school bag I had forgotten all about. He wanted to say something, but I didn't give him the chance. I just wanted to run away while I still could, so I simply pushed him away. I think I even shouted something hurtful to him on the way out. I remember getting home and weeping in my room. Before I noticed it, I fell asleep in tears. In the afternoon, my mom called me to eat and said I would get no sweets until I finished my soup. I was eating and thinking that I wanted a cake, one with cream. I woke up, poking myself in the cheek with a spoon. I was in the dining room, sitting at the table and apparently trying to eat air. There was nothing on the table in front of me aside from the spoon I kept mechanically poking my face with. My parents were also there, looking at me flabbergasted. That's when I broke down. I told them I was probably a sleepwalker because I'd been doing weird things in my sleep. I told them about school too, and about having almost fallen off the terrace, and that I didn't know what to do at all, only that I was very afraid of falling asleep. What was strange was that my parents didn't look surprised after hearing my story at all. They seemed sad, and they kept looking at each other while I was explaining what had been going on. That's when I found out the truth. Turned out I had been sleepwalking since I was a little kid. I used to walk around the house and do strange things at night. Following the advice of a pediatrician, they had taken me to a well-known psychotherapist who had somehow hypnotized me. Since then, I'd stopped sleepwalking and had completely forgotten about those days. My fear of heights was the only thing left as a reminder of the whole experience, and now it had all come back. Now that my parents knew the truth, I could go to bed without fear. My mom had checked all the windows in the apartment, and then they had locked the front door and the one leading to my room. They promised to keep me safe until morning. I had a beautiful dream. I was running through a forest, jumping over hummocks and rocks. There was a flickering light ahead, and I felt like it was very important to catch it. And then I saw a stream. The light seemed to stop on the opposite bank on purpose, and I only needed to make one more jump to get to my goal. Suddenly, someone jerked me back by my waist. I fell and woke up just a step away from the edge of that awful terrace. Only now I wasn't alone. My classmate, the one I had turned down at school, was holding me tightly by the waist. His eyes were like 2 saucers, huge and frightened. I only had one thought. If he had come just a second later? Anyway, I yelled at him again and ran home. I spent a long while trying to understand how I managed to open up all the locks in our apartment without waking my parents up. We went to the doctor in the morning. I was praying that they would wave a magic wand in front of my face, prescribe some magic pills, and I would stop walking in my sleep. But it turned out that only Harry Potter and his friends got to have the magic wands, and taking pills was simply useless in my case, as was getting hypnotized again. The doctor said that my sleepwalking wasn't a disease, but a normal reaction of the body to growing up. It would supposedly pass when I grew up. He added that I should not worry and sent me and my parents home. Great job, doctor. You had even found the reason for the return of my sleepwalking, stress because of my first love. But why hadn't you thought that I wouldn't grow up at all, with all those nightly walks? I could easily not live to grow up if things continued in the same vein. I had to go back to school thinking such charming thoughts. Well, of course, why wouldn't I? If I wasn't ill, I had to go. For some reason, none of the adults thought about what it would be like for me there. Everyone laughed at me right from the moment I walked in. The other kids were parroting me, suggesting I go to a mental hospital for treatment, followed me everywhere, waiting for me to do something else strange and abnormal. They also often scattered when they saw me as if I was some kind of psycho. I wasn't sleeping again, my nerves were stretched taut, the ridicule of my classmates was driving me insane. The math teacher called me to the blackboard and made me solve some mind-boggling theorem. For some reason, they were 4 chickens, 3 stones, and 1 triangle, and it was very important for me to solve everything correctly because I would be expelled otherwise. And the chickens, as luck would have it, kept running away. I woke up standing at the blackboard and holding chalk in my hands. The teacher was looking at me with horror, and everyone in the class was roaring with laughter. I couldn't even cry. It took all my strength just to stand straight and not run at that moment. Then, that strange boy was suddenly standing in front of me. I remembered that he had been transferred not so long ago. He gave a whole speech to our classmates, saying that they only knew how to laugh at other people's problems, and if they had a problem with me, he was more than ready to explain why that was a bad idea with his fists. His words, not mine. I decided to finally give him a chance. We sat down in the cafeteria. No one wanted to sit next to the outcasts anyway. It turned out that his name was Max, and he had just recently moved to our city with his parents. By a strange coincidence, we were neighbors. His apartment was opposite ours. But the most interesting thing was, he knew about my problems with sleep from experience. Only unlike me, he could not sleep at all. His chronic insomnia, the doctors had said, would go away with time. Max said that it was even somewhat fun to sleep for only 10 to 15 minutes a day. He could do a lot of things in the remaining time. He liked to sit on that terrace and look at the stars at night. Unlike me, he wasn't afraid of heights at all. Since then, we had become quite the lovebirds. As 2 school outcasts, we spend all our time together. We do our homework, take long walks, and only part before going to bed, only to meet again in a couple hours. Now, Max comes to the terrace and waits for me to wake me up and save me from falling down, and then we chat about all sorts of stuff until dawn. We often talk about holding on just a little more until we grow up and our illnesses go away by themselves. Except I don't want to rush it anymore. Don't get me wrong, no longer sleepwalking would be great, but I'm scared I won't be able to see Max at night anymore. And I've only just realized that I'm in love with him.